Good morning, good morning. Welcome to the E-Shack. It is Junkanoo 242. It is another Saturday morning. We are live and happy to have you. A special good morning to all of our listeners, whether it's on Facebook watching us, whether it's on the radio, whether you are in the family island. A special good morning to you guys. A lot of those islands are recovering from a regatta homecoming holiday weekend. Happy to have you guys in the shack with us. Now it's time to get to work. Good morning, good morning. Good morning, Barefoot. How you doing?
Good morning, good morning. I am wonderful. I see you got the big boys in the house this morning. The big boys, the
Listen,
real
listen,
big boys. Say what you
listen.
want. Big
You
boys.
you done starting the show off with problems. Okay?
I just telling the truth. I just telling the truth, man.
Listen, we got, like you said, we got some big boys who are on the guest as the guests of the show. But we have a very important topic we're going to be discussing. But before we go any further, let's start off with the prayer. Heavenly Father, for the gift of life, we give you thanks. For our nation, we pray for peace, progress, prosperity, and principle, recovery, and restoration. For ourselves, we pray for wisdom to use your gifts wisely, especially the gift of Junkanoo, so that we may honor you, serve your people, build better communities, and a better Bahamas, and a better world. Amen. Proud to be Bahamian. Ronald, what you got for me this morning? I know you had some exciting things going on. What you proud about this week?
Well, I'm proud to be Bahamian in the first instance. I'm
Uh-huh.
proud to be living in this wonderful country of ours that everybody around the world just continue to flock to. And I'm proud to be a member of them big boys you got in the house this morning.
You could course like yeah. Yes, this past week, Ronald, it was exciting to see what was going on in the country in terms of festivals and arts, sloop sailing, regattas, homecoming, people traveling to various far-flung islands who still are family islands, and they're going back home and just enjoying the time. Especially in the Junkanoo world, we celebrated emancipation, and we celebrated in our true style with the Foxtail Day Rush, and that was a great, phenomenal experience, a great presentation by all of the groups that were there. Everybody that showed up, everybody that showed out, and came to celebrate with the community of Fox Hill. That was extremely exciting. Another thing in the Proud to be Bahamian um, segment is that we have a lot of athletes in the World Games and the World Championships that are racking up medals. And even the set who aren't racking up medals, they're,
And the
you know,
Commonwealth Games going
yeah,
on at the same time.
man, they are showing us, listen, this little country is a force to reckon with, and they are representing our country in true form, man, Rona. So
No
that,
doubt, no doubt they're doing wonders. The Bahamas name is out there. I try to watch it every evening, and I see that aquamarine, gold, and black on the stands. They're winning gold medals. They're winning silvers. They're doing personal best times and distances. It's absolutely wonderful. But on the point of last weekend was a wonderful, amazing weekend culturally, from a family perspective,
mhm.
and from an economic perspective, where folks gathered and went throughout the islands of the Bahamas. At least 8 islands in the country had either a regatta, a homecoming, or a festival. After 2 years of lockdown, that kind of economic activity was important to the lifeline of all those islands and those communities. And it was great to see it happen again.
Ronald, did you check up on your co-workers that were in those islands? Did they return back to work? This is important. You all had people in Cat Island, people in Rollville, people in Rumkey. Did they return back to work, Ronald? This is important.
They're all back to work. Everybody was back into work by Tuesday latest. I'm tired, of course, had a good time, definitely. But we were able to reach out and reach people throughout the islands. As you said, we had presence on, I think it was 4 or 5 of those islands where the Broadcasting Corporation was present and broadcasting from, physically present on those islands. And so that was another great moment to be able to share the activities from the various islands with the entire country.
Yeah, man, that was good. Well, folks, no way to end that segment of Proud to be Bohemian or better than on that note. What we're going to do, we're going to run to our break. And ladies and gentlemen, this morning we're going to be discussing a critical issue that we have touched before and will no doubt touch again. And we have a very special guest in the E-Shack with us this morning. When we get back from our break, we'll introduce them to you. We'll be right back after the break.
What you hear on this radio station is governed by IRCA's Code of Practice for Content Regulation. The Code of Practice covers matters relating to program content that are of concern to the community, such as local content, news, current affairs, and programs for children, advertising, including political advertisements, and the responsibilities associated with broadcasting in the Bahamas. The code also covers aspects such as access services for the hearing and visually impaired, and the procedure for lodging a complaint about anything broadcast by this station. The code is available on the IRCA website at www.ircabahamas.bs. To receive a copy of the code by mail or in person, you may telephone IRCA at 242-393-0234. Family Island dialing is toll free at 1-242 300 8722. Or you may send a request by email to info@ircabahamas.bs.
From the Junkanoo archives on the Junkanoo timeline, the period was the early 1930s. It was a time of depression for the Bahama Islands, brought on by the stock market crash of 1929 and the repeal of the prohibition laws in 1933. In the United States, in the Bahamas, the sponge beds were faltering, and hard times were manifested in the Junkanoo parades, which had begun to grow more disorderly, resulting in public feelings turning against the parades. Another fascinating notch on the Junkanoo timeline. Welcome back, the whistleblower, and we all lined up ready for this segment of our show. It's called The Rollover. This morning, we are very pleased to have a very special guest in the person of Mr. Patrick Adderley of the Valley Boys, who is also one of their JCNP reps, and he'll tell us about all the other titles that he holds in the Junkanoo community. As we're discussing a very important and actually critical topic: is Junkanoo in crisis? Good morning, Patrick. Happy to have you here with us.
Good morning, Darren. Good morning, Thomas. Good morning, Pepper.
Morning, Patrick. Morning, Patrick. I don't like how he introduced you. You know, some of them other people, he bigging them right up, boy. Bigging them right up. You come with this little soft intro for one of the leaders of the best group in the world, undoubtedly. When you come with this little soft intro, better fix
you
that,
know,
boy.
boy, you know what? It's a good thing Bastiani on this show this morning because I don't see it's gonna be big fight. No, but I want us to get into it, and I want Patrick, to tell us his history in Junkanoo. How did he get involved in Junkanoo? How long he's been a part of this phenomenon? And I want to start there so we can lay the groundwork as to what we're getting into this topic. Tell us about it, Patrick.
Before you go to Patrick, I'll tell you something you don't know. that Patrick is the proud father of one of our announcers here on ZNS Radio. He is the father of our Kashigan Adderley.
No, man.
That's right.
Okay, okay, okay. So that means he can produce greatness. That's what you're trying to say.
Yes. So yes, yes, and yes, son. And I just thought that I would just so you know, but he has all of the knowledge of Junkanoo and Junkanality in his blood. And so all aspects of Junkanoo he could do, you know. But you know, some children they take it up and then some children put it down.
Yeah.
But he has the knowledge, and it would be, I guess, the Lincoln of the father not to pass it on to both of my sons. And so, with that in mind, I will just give you a brief synopsis of where I came from. And
Okay.
to put it mildly, you know, I came up the rough side of the mountain in Junkanoo. In all aspects of it. You know, I grew up Thompson Lane, and I was surrounded Junkanoo on every side. You know, because when I turned my head to the east, I heard the Valley Boys. Then I turned it to the north, I heard the Saxons. When I turned it to the west, it was the music makers, and so I was born surrounded with Junkanoo, and so I didn't have any other choice but to be baptized in it. And so you know, up the road, there used to be a middle group, a junior group called the Soul Makers, and that will tell you the later time that I been in Junkanoo. There was no B division then. It was senior and junior, and so the Soul Makers was a junior group headed by one Gerald Lockmore, and you would have had persons like JJ and Gerald and La and those fellas, Shortman and all of them that were very instrumental in my upbringing. But after we had some sponsorship issues, Spotless Cleaners back then used to sponsor the group. Boy was wooed over to the Saxons, and so
Patrick, Patrick, let me stop you for a second. What we're gonna do is I'm gonna run to a break right quick. I'm getting a distorted sound, and I don't want to miss out any of this information. I'm gonna run to a break, and we're gonna check some things on this, and I'm gonna need you to do some things on that end. We're gonna quickly run to a break. When we get back, we pick up this story of Patrick Adley. We'll be right back.
you getting some distortion from me?
Yeah, it's like it's taking up all the bandwidth. Can you turn off your camera for me a second? Let me see if that gives me a better thing on the volume.
How about that? I brought my volume down some more.
The Ministry of Social Services and Urban Development,
Okay.
in conjunction with the National
Is that better there?
Emergency,
Yes,
presents
that
the
is better.
2022 official hurricane shelters
Yeah.
for the islands of the Bahamas. New Providence, Agape Full Gospel Baptist Church, Kennedy Subdivision. Berea Seventh-day Adventist Church, Blue Hill Road South. Canon Neil E. Roach Hall, Holy Cross Anglican Church, Highbury Park. Church of God Convention Center, for use by SRC. Joe Farrington Road. Ebenezer Mission Baptist Evangelistic Church, St. Charles Vincent Street. Epworth Hall, Ebenezer Methodist Church,
for use by homeless and people with physical disabilities, Shirley Street. Grantstown Seventh-day Adventist Church, Wellington Street. Hillview Seventh-day Adventist Church. Tonic Williams Darling Highway. Maranatha Seventh-day Adventist Church, Prince Charles Drive. New Bethlehem Baptist Church, Independence Drive. New Dimensions Ministries, Joe Farrington Road. New Providence Community Center, Blake Road. Pilgrim Baptist Temple, St. James Road. St. Barnabas Anglican Church, Wolf Road and Blue Hill Road. Reverend Dr. O.A. Pratt Educational Building, St. John's Native Baptist Church, Augusta and Meeting Streets.
All right, say something for me, Patrick. I just want to make sure. Testing.
Williams Community Center.
Yeah, just testing one.
Salvation Army,
2, 3.
Meadow
Testing
Street.
1, 2, 3. That's better.
Southwest Cathedral
All right.
Church of God.
Turn the camera off
Carmichael
one
Road.
second for me and try it
The
again.
Anglican Church of the Epiphany, Prince Charles Drive. The Salvation Army, Mackey Street.
Testing, testing. Patrick, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
And the camera back on.
You can turn it back on. Welcome back. You're tuning in to Junkanoo 242. Folks, we getting into the story of the man. And with the name from the Valley Boys, Patrick Adderley, we're discussing the topic, Junkanoo in crisis. Is Junkanoo in crisis? Patrick, before we run to the break, you was telling us about how you got started in Junkanoo. You was with the group with Gerald Lotmore. I heard that part. Take us from there for me, please.
Yes, and like I said, after we encountered some sponsorship issues with Spotless Cleaners, Gerald got wooed over to join the Saxons. And literally the entire group went and joined the Saxons. And, a lot of people don't know, but I would have come from the back all the way to the front. And so when I came in Junkanoo, you weren't allowed to just walk into the front line. You had to be invited or called up to the front line. And so I would have started beating drums, believe it or not, Darren. And obviously I didn't have that kind of skill. I mean, them hands was like concrete. And so I used to encounter a lot of blisters and stuff like that. And so Gerald said, no, you're covered for this. Why don't you try the bells? And so I tried the bells, and not that I was bad at the bells, you know what I mean? I developed more of a pasting knack. And Gerald saw that in me, and I would have started off pasting shoes. You remember they used to paste shoes?
Patrick, someone still a space shoes, man.
Yeah, we used to paste shoes and paste pants, and then like when you were really good, so you had to have been really good for the fella to give you a shirt to paste.
Okay, hold on 1 second for me. Ronald is telling me that we're getting a bad feed from your connection. Can you call into the line for me, please? 325-5404. Because he's not getting a good connection on that end, and I don't want to rob the listeners of any of this content.
Give me that number again.
325-5404. All right, Ronald. He should be coming in studio now on the phones. All right. Continue for me, Patrick. You started out. You're now pacing people's shirt.
No, no, not people. I was based in Gerald.
Oh, you're pacing Gerald's shirt.
Not people. He used my tasting skills exclusively for him.
Oh, yeah, the exclusive face stuff. Okay.
Yeah. And so and
And
so
so
I
I
would have developed
developed
um tasting because when we went over to the Saxons, Gerald started to produce step down costumes.
Okay.
And he went from step down to lead, and so I would have been an integral part in him pasting these costumes. Although back then I had a fork on costume. You remember when we used to blow the fork on, darling?
Yeah, man, what you mean, man? What you mean? Roots had a whole lot of them in Fox Hill this weekend going, buddy. Roots come on there with no brass.
But like I said, I would have come up on the rough side. I stayed with the Saxons. Well, we stayed with the Saxons for about 2 seasons. And then one Paul Knowles would have approached Gerald
Mm-hmm.
and asked Gerald to team up with him because he at the time was having some issues in the valley, and he wanted to form a new group called the Premier Dancers.
Okay.
And like I said, I came up in a time in Junkanoo where when you was an apprentice, you didn't have a say. So wherever the senior went, you had to go. And so there wasn't any question. The whole cohort of us went with Gerald again to the Premier Dancers.
Okay.
And the Premier Dancers did one full season. And of course, Paul Knowles and Gus Cooper, they settled their differences and he rejoined the Valley. And so there you go. That's how I ended up in the Valley.
So that's a rough road to trod for real. that's a rough road to trod for real. You go from one side of the competition to the whole next side of the competition.
The whole next side, from one side of the wall to the next side.
Okay, so in that process, being skilled in pasting, once you got to the valley, what were some of the roles that you took on and where you are today?
Well, when I joined the Valley, I joined the Valley as a step off the shoulder dancer. And even in the Valley, you had levels of step down. So I would have joined at the bottom rung, if you will, because I would not have been, well, to put it mildly, I wasn't at the level of tasting that they was at the valley in the Valley. I got to
Okay.
tell you that now. All right. As good as a taster I thought I was, I had a whole lot to learn, and over the years, I've learned the art of pasting from a Valley boy's perspective. which is totally different. The way that they taste is different. The way that they color is different, and a lot of the skills that they use specifically for meekness was different from what I was familiar with coming from the Saxon.
And working your way up from costuming, over the years, where
Well,
what?
as I off the shoulder, like I said, I worked my way up from the bottom rung of the off the shoulders in the valley, right
Mhm.
at the top, and it's like I said, and I will repeat, I came up the rough side. Now, so here I am in the valley, and at the time I had a builder called Edward Rock Monroe,
Mhm.
and so we were in a shop right off from Wood Road, the old Plessing Munnings building, and there was a hurricane that came through, and the hurricane came through, and the roof of the shop fell in,
Wow.
and in that building any longer.
Mhm.
So we're taking all these costumes in the shop. The roof came in, and so we need somewhere to go. And so it was decided that I would be the one to go and ask Cooper to be the first occupant of this building in Cloud Road.
Okay.
And so I went through a period of fasting and praying. Um,
Patrick,
and so I went to Mr. Cooper, and needless to say, um, not only did he give me the okay to occupy the building, at the same time he made me responsible for the building.
Oh.
Patrick,
And so,
Patrick,
yes, sir.
if you can remember, can you tie in some dates as you take us through this journey, please?
uh, you talk.
He asking for a lot.
Okay.
That would have been more than 20 years ago. That we would have moved into that building.
This Gerald that you're talking about, is this the Beastmaster, Gerald the Beast?
No. This is Gerald Lockmore, who was just honored
Okay, okay,
in the Independence Day celebration.
okay, gotcha.
Yes, that's Gerald Lockmore. And I want to congratulate him. It's the honor well deserved and well overdue. And so I want to thank the persons that recognize his contribution. I couldn't be certainly where I am without him.
Okay. So what? I want to say this mildly, but what are some of the titles or some of the responsibilities that you have now in the organization?
Well, after I would have went to Gus Cooper and got us permission to occupy the space. Simultaneously, um, I was more or less elected to represent the off the shoulders at the management level in the Valley Boys around the same time.
Okay.
And so I sat on the management team from there, beginning with the representatives of the off the shoulder, and then some 10 years later, I was elected as deputy chairman of the Valley Board, and I held that position for another um, 6 or 9 years, six or so years. Um, and now I'm presently a senior representative of the management team. I also represent the Valley Boys at the JCNP level, which I've held many positions there. But my most recent position would have been the coordinator um, on the parade and the group liaison for the JCNP on the last parade in 2019. And
Okay.
from that point, I present to you that I, in fact, believe that Junkanoo is in crisis. Um, at that parade, there would have been a number of senior Junkanooers assembled at the gate.
Mm-hmm.
And we observed the New Year's Day parade. And I believe that, Darren, you were there. And I don't want to call the names of all the persons who were there. But after that parade, the general public, there was a comment made, and the comment was that that was the most pickiest parade I've seen in recent memory. You remember that comment, today?
Yeah, it was very vivid. We all there was a lot of representatives there from the JCMP, a lot of group liaisons at that point where you're talking about right on Frederick Street, and a
Yes.
lot of us were watching a lot of the groups coming at us, and a lot of us were shaking our head. And one of the things I want the people to understand is that you say Junkanoo is in a crisis, and the definition of a crisis is a time of intense difficulty or danger, a time when a difficult or important decision must be made. Are you saying that's where we are, Patrick?
You know, that is precisely where we are, because viewing that last parade, New Year's Day parade 2019, many of us were just aghast at how we have allowed our parade to sink to such a level, in the quality of it, that it's almost unrecognizable.
You
And for most of us, we were just embarrassed at what we have allowed this product to come to.
oh boy. You're talking about presentations of costumes. You're talking about the parade coming at you. You're talking about people being disappointed. You're talking about this being a crisis. Patrick, in your opinion, what would you say is the one, I guess, critical thing that you say we are letting slide or slip through the cracks at this time, or not paying attention to?
Well, in my opinion, because of course, I've come from a costuming background. I also am the costume coordinator for the judges court, and I believe that one of the most critical things that we're missing, or we're not doing, or we're failing to do, is we're failing to teach um, the young Junkanooers the art of tasting. Tasting is an art, and Junkanoo people is an art.
Let
When
me
you
pose. Let me pose the question. Let me pose the question. Um, I correct me if I'm wrong. I believe you said that it was the parade of 2019 when these Junkanoo persons
Yes,
from the JCNP and otherwise
yes,
were assembled at the gate
yes,
and making these comments.
yes,
That's almost 3 years later.
yes.
We have not had a parade since then, have we?
No, we have not.
Having that knowledge and having that conversation in the interim, what kind of measures has the JCNP put in place to deal with your concerns?
Well, Mr. Findon will probably be the best person to answer that because, to my knowledge, I've heard a lot of talk, Ronald, but I still wait to see what is actually done. And COVID gave us an opportunity. It gave us an opportunity during the downtime to look at issues like this, to really strip our parades down and build them up brick by brick, brick by brick.
And that is exactly why I posed the question in the manner that I did. In the interim, in the 3 years almost since that conversation on the corner of Frederick Street, what has been done to correct it and do something about it? It is good that you recognize that you were in problems. Now, 3 years later, what is the plan of action to resolve the issues?
I want to go there. I want to go there. Patrick, you raised the point of teaching the art or passing the art through a pasting. That's correct, right? So in my I want to assume a point that you're saying that we're seeing that art go away, or we're not seeing pasting happening as prevalent in the parades. Is that what you're saying?
We're actually losing it. We're losing it simply because persons who come into Junkanoo now, they don't know how to paste. They don't know what is pasting.
Gentlemen, I don't want you to skirt around me. Don't skirt around me. 3 years after the collective of JCNP on that corner recognized and admitted there was a serious problem. 3 years later, the JCNP has been meeting in the interim all along. What has been done to rectify that issue?
Ronald, I understand your point, right? But we have to deal with this. We have to deal with this properly. And when I say deal with it properly, we have to understand that the JCNP is not an autonomous body or a body that's separate and apart. The JCNP is made up by members of the Junkanoo organizations. And my question to Patrick is this: see, if we don't think, quote unquote, there may be assembling of people who are saying, yeah, I see a problem, but there may be another grouping of people who say there is no problem. And so my question is, Patrick, do you feel as though the Junkanoo community at large think that there is a problem?
And this Ronald, is the paradox. Simply because there are people who sit at the JCNP level who share my view, who share your concerns, and then there are others who see that or who feel that there is no problem. That what Junkanoo is going through is an evolution. This is a natural evolution.
I can't accept that. The JCNP, whether you like it, whether you admit it or not, is the body corporate recognized as the body responsible for the presentation of the Junkanoo parade. Okay? They got responsibility for the presentation of the Junkanoo parades. And when I say presentation, I'm talking about overall presentation. I'm not talking about beaches and ticketing and la. I'm talking about the presentation by way of standards, by way of costuming, the whole gamut. That's what I'm talking about. And if you have that responsibility, and it's recognized nationally that that is your responsibility, and you recognized 3 years ago that there is a serious issue, what is the plan of action? Has the plan of action been discussed in the past 3 years, or it was just on the corner that day, a conversation between some rank and file leaders of the JCNP, and that was the end of it?
Ronald, I totally agree with you, and I would have to say, in honesty, there has been, quote unquote, there is still talks in the rules committee as to right now what is the way forward. Things are being suggested. So right now there has been nothing concrete because it hasn't been put to the floor as yet. However, it goes back to the point, and I'm getting to the crux of this, is that if the majority of people do not see a problem, nothing can be done. Okay, the minority of people who are screaming for it or asking for these suggestions, if the majority of the people are saying, well, it's fine, it's just evolution, then we don't have a problem, then you could scream all you want from the floor. All right, you're still going to end up to the point when it comes to the vote, what happens?
But what I'm getting from you is that no steps have been taken to address the issue. That's what I'm getting from you.
Ronald, no, and I want to say this respectfully. What steps can be taken if the majority of the groups do not see a problem with their presentation? They do not see a problem with the lack of pacing that's coming on Bay Street. What can be done?
Has it been put to the floor? Gentlemen, we saw some things on that parade in 2019. Has that been put on the floor at the JCNP? We have an issue. We need to address it. Now, if that has not been done, and I'm getting the impression that that has not been done, then you got a bigger problem than the problem you're talking about.
No, Ronald, it has been done, and this is one of the reasons why we're having this discussion now in terms of Junkanoo's or Junkanoo being in crisis, right? And why we're saying is that from a bigger, or from the outside looking, or from the competition level, or even from the parade level, people see a parade that keeps on happening and the competition is going on. But on the back end, the skills and the uniqueness that makes up this festival is being lost because everybody is they're so gun-ho on let's just compete. Folks, we're gonna pick up this discussion on the next side of the break. Patrick, don't go anywhere. Junkanoo in crisis. Is it? We'll be right back on Junkanoo 242.
The Ministry of Social Services and Urban Development, in conjunction with the National Emergency Agency, presents the 2022 official hurricane shelters for the islands of the Bahamas. Grand Bahama, Bethany Baptist Church, Hannah Hill, 8 Mile Rock, Bethel Baptist Church, Pinedale, Bethel Deliverance Center, Jonestown, 8 Mile Rock, Bishop Michael Eldon School Auditorium, East Beachway Drive, Freeport, Calvary Temple, Small Chapel, Clive Avenue, Freeport, Central Zion Baptist Church, 8 Mile Rock, Church of God of Prophecy, Pinedale, Church of Ascension, Arden Forest Road, Freeport, Community Holiness Church, Martintown, 8 Mile Rock Gymnasium, 8 Mile Rock, 8 Mile Rock High School, 8 Mile Rock, First Baptist Church, Columbus Drive, Freeport, Foster B. Pestina Hall, Christ the King Special Needs Shelter, East Atlantic Drive, Freeport, Maurice Moore Primary School, Sandcombe Drive, Arden Forest, Freeport, Mount Calvary Baptist Educational Building, Seagrape, New Olivet Baptist Church, Holmes's Rock, St. George's Gymnasium, Sunset Highway, Freeport, Shiloh Seventh Day Adventist Church, Sandcombe Drive, Freeport.
Filed under C for community. In the old days, Junkanoo groups rushed to Bay Street and rushed back to their neighborhoods when the parades were over. And with them went the entire neighborhood, the young, the old, and everyone in between. For many, it was the best part of the Junkanoo morning. The entire community supporting their boys. Our Junkanoo, rooted in the communities. So proud of it. Welcome back. You're tuning in to Junkanoo 242. The whistle blow, and we're all lined up. Now it's time for our first lap this morning. We're pleased to have our very special guest, Patrick Adderley of the Valley Boys, who is also one of the JCMP reps, also the costume coordinator for the JCMP course. And we're talking about a critical topic called Is Junkanoo in Crisis? Before we went to the break, there are some comments that is being made, and one of them is, you don't come into Junkanoo knowing how to pace. Uh, I just want to get this comment right. Yeah, you don't come into Junkanoo with the knowledge or skill of pacing. The problem is enough groups aren't teaching their members the craft. Another one is, it is the responsibility of individual groups to preserve and to teach the art form. The JCMP should police the preservation when it comes to the rules and how it is governed. And from those two comments, Patrick, is where I want to pose my next question. And it's similar, it is one of the things of what Ronald is asking. Where does this problem lie? Is it quote unquote from the group's responsibility of not doing enough to pass and teach this art form along? Or is it from the organization of the JCNP, who have reps from the groups, who put these rules together to enforce certain things to make sure that groups do certain things? Or is it twofold? What do you think, Patrick?
I think that first of all, and I want to say this kind of gently, but I place the blame squarely at the feet of the JCNP. Squarely.
Okay.
And I say that, and I say that, and I want the public to know that that is an organization that I'm a part of as well. Okay? But we fail to police. We failed in policing this product. And so I believe that it is critical not only for us to look at our rules critically this year, but we have to go a step further and we have to find or develop a mechanism to continue to police our parade. We got to police ourselves to ensure that we preserve this gift that is because personally looking at it,
Patrick, when you say you blame the JCNP, of course, are you saying is it them as a body, or is it in the rules that are being crafted? Is it the rules are not lending themselves into this teaching and preservation of this art form called pasting, or what is it?
Okay. Let me give you a classic example. Okay. Let's look at the judging, right?
Mm-hmm.
I present to the judges. A part of my course is I actually, first of all, demonstrate to the judges the different types of fringes. I literally go there in front of their eyes. Okay?
Okay.
I then go and get a bottle machine and I tell them how
Ronald, I'm losing his volume on the phone. I can't hear you, Patrick. Okay, you were saying that you show them. Yes, you said that you show them the various fringes in the course itself.
Yes. And the judges actually have an opportunity to pace themselves. They do actual pacing in the different forms. They do that. However, when you look at the costume that is the winner of the show, you have to think about it.
Just okay. So the question now is this: if you realize that there is an issue, whereas you've shown them these things, and there is a disconnect in terms of what is
Yes.
pasting, what a costume is supposed to look like. However, what wins is not, of course, by the definition as to quote unquote what is supposed to win. How do we deal with that?
Like I said, we deal with that through policing. Through policing. And the policing has to come not only from the group's perspective, but it has to come through the judges as well. We have to police them. We just turn over operations to individuals and we allow them to do whatever they feel like with our product, and then they give it back to us in the new year for us to fix it or to try to fix it.
Okay, I understand that portion of it. I understand that portion of it. There needs to be policing done. There needs to be enforcement of some of the rules that are done. Um, my next question to you is this: is that do you feel as though, do you think that it is the mandate, or do you think as though the JCNP as an organization has this type of mandate in place, or this is their agenda to actually protect, preserve, nurture, and to teach these type of things?
You know, like I said, I don't want to come here and put too much on the JCND. Okay.
Uh-huh.
One of the major responsibilities of the JCND is these parades.
You are
And
correct.
if, in fact, you have a deteriorating product, then I think it's only wise for you to look at what you are presenting and put the steps in place to ensure that you will have something to manage in to come.
Ah, boy, my one of the questions that we've spoke about many times in terms about having something to manage, making sure that these parades reach a particular standard so over years to come. From your outlook and observation, where do you see us in 15 years in terms of the Junkanoo product on the parades, in your opinion?
Now, I don't want to be the bearer of that, but if we don't pivot at this point, that other parade
An
that
accessible parking permit, use a parking space designated for persons with disabilities, even for just a minute. That's 60 seconds too long. The abuse of accessible parking spaces is a daily frustration for persons with disabilities. It is inconsiderate, insensitive, and hinders persons with disabilities from effectively conducting business and actively participating in community life. Never park in a space reserved for people with disabilities unless you have a permit to do so. It is the right and respectful thing to do. This message is brought to you by the National Commission for Persons with Disabilities, a unit in the Ministry of Social Services and Community Development. For more information, visit www.disabilitiescommissionbahamas.org.
Examples of excellence. As a young man of 18 years, Kevin Cooper began his Junkanoo career in 1989 with the Valley Boys as a dancer. From there, he eventually moved on to lead costumes before retiring from active Junkanoo in 2006. Yet, his greatest contribution to Junkanoo was still ahead because it was in 2006 that Kevin created JunkanoOPaparazzi.com, an online hobby that documented parades, including their weddings, funerals, and everything in between. All of these he documented from the people in Junkanoo. In 2009, Kevin teamed up with Denny, Top Class Knowles, and Hugo Manager George of JNN. Today, JNN and JunkanoOPaparazzi.com work together to show the world what Junkanoo is all about. And no Junkanoo event is complete without them. Kevin Paparazzi Cooper, this week's inductee into the Junkanoo 242 Shack of Excellence. Patrick, I think we still got Zedness on the phone.
Yes.
Okay, so we were talking about we need to pivot because of the way things are trending right now, right? My question to you is, what are some, when you say we need to pivot, what are some of the mechanisms we need to put in place to actually make this shift?
Okay, we need to start, and like how we refer to Junkanoo, we need to start from the back and go to the front. And so when I refer to the back, we need to start with the music, and we need to go all the way up to the front line of the group, and then we need to deal with our parade. For example,
Go on, Patrick.
I don't know if if the public may be aware of it, but there is a movement that continues to dilute the parade, and the dilution, yes, it starts out very innocently, and then years later you realize that it's an adaptation and you can't get away with it. I remember, Darren, and you always refer to this argument with the wheel. And, that started off very innocently, Darren. You remember?
I wouldn't say it started off very innocently. I would say it started off very intentionally for the people who wanted it to happen.
It was intentional for those who knew what that end game was.
Okay,
we have moved from carrying costumes, and in Canada, we both used to carry one constructed costume.
Patrick, I want to stop you for a second. You spoke about a movement that has, quote unquote, watered down the things that we know as Junkanoo. My question to you is this movement intentional or unintentional? They don't even know that they're doing it. What do you think?
You know, I want to believe that it's unintentional. I really want to believe that. You could remember a time, Darren, as a drummer, when you took great pride in pasting your shirt as a drummer, although you know or you knew that you and you born as a you think in the back line now is the thing of the past.
Owen is saying,
Pasting anything in Junkanoo is almost a thing of the past. But change.
Owen is saying the problem is the hammer has not come down on what we will accept and what we won't accept as the standard.
He's right.
Groups, I lost the comment, but groups spend too much time trying to steer regulations in their favor to position themselves to win parades rather than fighting for the preservation of the art form. We are doing it to ourselves. The JCNP is us. Why are we acting as if it's a separate body, separate and apart from groups and their representatives?
Owen is absolutely right. It's us.
I see. I agree with him. But I think what is being lost here is that yes, we do have the representatives that make up the JCNP that votes for things on the floor. However, if you have a section of representatives or a section of anybody that does not feel as though a shift away from a mandate or a shift away from preserving what they have is a problem, how do you change that? How do you deal with it?
You know why you know why we have all of these problems in this country today? Because all of us turned a blind eye to what was going on. And we kept turning a blind eye, talking about, oh, this is another generation and blah, blah, blah. We didn't put our foot down to stop the hemorrhage. And as a result, we got what we got. That's what's happening in Junkanoo. We keep turning a blind eye and say, pass in the buck, pass in the buck. It's not going to happen by magic. Like Owen said, you got to put your foot down. You got to make the hard call. Then the judges bring you a decision that is ultra virus your rules. You got to tell everybody, get that out of here. We let it go. We let it go. Where's the 60% crepe people on the costume rule? It no longer applies. And the JCNP lets it slide every parade. And other things they let slide every parade. Who are you going to blame? You're talking about the Saxons or the Valley or Roots, it's the JCNP, the collective body. And I go back to saying they are responsible for the parade. And the parade includes the costuming, the presentation, the performance. That's the parade. They got nothing to do with no bleaching, feeding, and thing with y'all trying to.
Ronald, I understand what you're saying. But let me see if I can be more clear in my point. Let's say the JCMP has 20 people that sit at the table, each having a vote. Out of that 20 people, right? Out of that 20 people, you have 8 people who are saying, listen, the way we're going, we're not preserving, we're not doing X, Y, and Z. But the next 12 is saying, this is fine. My question to you is this. When it goes to the floor, the 12 will win. How do you then get the point across as to what the 12 or the way they are trending is detrimental to what is the future of this organization? How do you get that point across?
The JCNP represents the corporate body of Junkanoo, right? Which is
Yes,
the
sir.
total Junkanoo community, right? The
Yes, sir.
total Junkanoo community. If the JCNP in the best interest of Junkanoo is not being able to manage it at the executive level, do they have the capacity to take it to the corporate body? Or does it end right there at the executive level?
Well, the responsibility is that once that information is given to the group reps, that information is disseminated to the groups. The JCNP doesn't say, oh, we have to make sure that y'all are having member meetings and y'all are discussing this. They send the information, and how you disseminate it or not disseminate it is totally up to your representation and up to your group.
So the JCNP cannot cause the representatives to summon their leadership and their membership.
At this time, there's no. Patrick has been in the JCNP longer than myself. He can probably better answer that.
No, there's no mechanism in place. No.
So the competition wins then.
And that has been the fight that we've been conducting in the JCNP, where we just seem to be outnumbered. It's a numbers game.
And you got a serious problem, man.
Yes, we do.
I see why you say it's in crisis.
Yes.
Now, I go back to my original question. What you going to do to fix the crisis? What plans have been made in the last 3 years to address that barbershop meeting on the corner of Frederick and Bay Street 3 years later? The problem ain't gone nowhere. It's still there 3 years later.
But one thing I must say that I have a lot of faith in the present chairman of the JCNP, and I feel that he is committed to putting this train back on course, and I have every confidence that you would see some steps in these upcoming parades to get us back to where we should be. He's been very vocal in terms of us recognizing certainly the faults in these parades and our product. And I feel that he's committed to getting it back to where it should be.
And his intentions may be honorable, but he's only one vote.
Yes, he is only one vote, but I believe that if he puts his influence, particularly in the direction of a lot of the chairmen of the various organizations, and really make them understand that we need to remove the competition from this issue. This issue isn't group. This is the overall. Then if we don't pivot now, we actually have nothing to say about these people.
I think one of the greatest features of Junkanoo as I knew it was seeing a single man carry those lead costumes with no support, no wheels, nobody propping him up. That was one of the most significant features of Junkanoo. And many people marveled, visitors, when they came and realized that it was one man carrying that massive piece of wood.
Yeah.
Now, Darren, them going to put it on wheels.
Yeah.
We can't have nobody training with that no more. There's another way.
Ronald, the cry is actually different. It was the powers to be before me who started saying that, quote unquote, people were straining their back. They were being cramped up, and my simple answer to that was build smaller.
Yes, yes.
That's the simple solution. They told me I don't understand. I said, well, if you can't tote it, don't build it.
But even the wheels got problem toting what they're building now, man. You know, the wheels breaking down on them.
It's too big. It's too
Question
big.
still is, what do we do? How do we address it? How do we address the crisis and resolve it?
Oh boy, and this is gonna be this. I think we're gonna have this question for a few shows because there's a few more topics we want to bring to the public in terms of just this. There's a notion of, or there's a perspective of people who are saying that we're going through a natural state of evolution, and my question always to them is evolving to what? All right, and it's after you tamper with the sections of things that make us unique, then what will we have to separate us from everybody else that's having a festival? And that's my question.
You know, we talk about this question of evolution, and Dr. Nicolette Bethel was on a few shows back, and she drew to our attention the difference between evolution and change for change's sake.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, Dan, sometimes when you sit at the JCNT and you, particularly us who are on the rules committee, and you see and you listen to the suggestions that are presented, it's like you wonder, what are these people thinking?
They thinking win. They thinking win. Competition. How do we beat them? What's in the best interest of beating them? That's what they thinking. That's why you got this crisis. Because
so there is no thought about the overall impact of the product in years to come.
No, because practically every group that go to Bay Street, including the Valley Boys, of which you and I are membership, we want to win. We don't care about the preserving nothing. We want to win. We want to brag.
Yeah, but
All of us are part of the problem.
Ronald, and it's been said, can't you win with the standards in place? Can't you win by having a pasted costume? Can't you win with not having a costume that's predominantly decorations and feathers? Can't you win with not having your costumes on wheels? Can't you win?
No, because we've not been winning. So no, we can't win. That's why they've gone in that direction. And everybody is guilty of it. Everybody. There's hardly a purist left in Junkanoo today. And that's why you have the challenges that you have. Because everybody go to Bay Street to win. That is the issue you have to address in the first instance. The mindset of the game. That's the biggest problem.
Folks, we're going to run to our final break. When we get back, we're going to get some closing comments, closing remarks on this topic. Is Junkanoo in a crisis? We'll be right back right after this break.
Ministry of Social Services and Urban Development, in conjunction with the National Emergency Agency, presents the 2022 official hurricane shelters for the islands of the Bahamas. San Salvador and Rum Key. Fellowship in Christ Kingdom Ministry, Coburn Town. Grace Research Center, United Estates Settlement. Idell Jones Community Hall and St. Augustine Church Hall, Coburn Town. St. Christopher Anglican Church, Port Nelson, Rum Key. St. James Native Baptist Church, North Victoria Hill. St. John's Native Baptist Church, United Estates. The Ministry of Social Services and Urban Development, in conjunction with the National Emergency Agency, presents the 2022 official hurricane shelters for the islands of the Bahamas. Inagua, New Life Seventh-day Adventist Church, Matthew Town. St. Philip's Anglican Community Center, Matthew Town. Zion Baptist Church, Matthew Town.
And now for news off the shack wall. Happy birthday greetings to everybody that's celebrating a birthday in the upcoming week. We want to say, hey, special happy birthday to you. Condolences to all of the families who all are grieving the loss of a loved one at this time. Our hearts and our prayers are with you. It's a countdown. It's a countdown. It is Saturday, August the 6th, 2022. We are 20 hopeful weeks away from Bay. Folks, we're diving into the topic, is Junkanoo in crisis? That's the topic for the day. I would say in studio with us is we have Patrick Adderley from the Valley Boys with us. But Patrick, before you go, I have one question that I need you to address. I need your opinion and your expertise on it. Seeing that you have a background and you came up through the ranks in costuming, you know, my question to you is this. Is pasting and crafting the same thing? If they are different, what is the difference, please?
That's an interesting question.
Is the art of applying fringe paper to cardboard. And crafting is just simply applying or sticking a piece of paper on cardboard.
Say it again. Say it again, Patrick. Say it again. Let me make sure I understand this properly.
Pasting is applying fringe paper, strip by strip, on cardboard. That's pasting. Okay? Crafting is simply applying paper to any surface.
Boy.
Not necessarily strip by strip.
No, I say applying paper. I say nothing but no strip by strip. I say paper. Applying paper.
So the key word there, or I would say two keywords there, is fringed paper and strip by strip when it comes to pasting.
Yeah.
Yes. They are two major components of pasting.
This is going to be an interesting definition as to what we get on as the weeks go on. I just thought to ask that, saying that, you know, you have such a history of pasting and costuming. What, Patrick, we're almost out of time, and I'm sure we're going to be continuing this discussion. My question to you is, what are some of the things you would like to see addressed from a JCNP level when it comes to the way the parades are trending now? What are some of the things you'd like to see addressed?
If you'd like to make a call, please hang up.
I think he got disconnected. Patrick, you may want to call back in again, please. Your call dropped.
And we have to be deliberate.
Deliberate.
Yes, deliberate now. We've gone to a point where we're trying to be subtle now, to be deliberate in crafting our rules in such a way where it is clear that this product is going to be preserved for generations to come. And so we have to look at rules such as pasting. We have to clearly define it. The rule relates to the percentage of the costume that requires pasting. The judges has told the CNP over and over that is impractical. See, only Junkanoos could determine if a costume 60% pasted. Only Junkanoos could do that. And so in if they're coming rushing at you, you have a limited amount of time to look at 15, 20 costumes. You will be able to determine if it's 60% basic. I'm novice. I don't know anything about jungle. And so we have to ensure that our rules are practical, and because we're going to have Joe Public judging them, that they are practical enough for Joe Public to understand them and are able to enforce them.
So hold on, Patrick. To that point about percentage, if you had it your way, what percentage would you say needs to be pasted on the costume?
100%. You have to start with pasting. That's the costume. You paste it first, then you enhance it. These fellas, they jump over these things and they go straight to enhancing.
Oh gosh.
They just they're putting it up.
Wow. Okay. Anything else you?
That is not evolution. Because guess what? I can bring my pasted costume and put it next to this, and I will outshine them day and night. With all that glitz and glamour they have on their costume, my costume will not only last longer than theirs, my costume will be prettier than this. And so that's not evolution.
Wow. Okay. Anything else you'd like to see addressed?
The judging of the parade, we have to ensure that when the results are given, that they are final.
Oh boy, now you hit a hot, there's a hot button right there, Patrick. You sure about that? The results must be final.
When I said, when you give the results,
okay,
they must be.
So you're saying that these results, there's no timeline as to when they can give the results, but the results should be final when given.
Yes, I'm saying when you give it, it's got to be final.
Okay. 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 All right. So you're not calling for the results to come directly after the parade. You just say they need to be final once they're given. They're finalized once you're given.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because what we're doing is we're discrediting ourselves with all of the changes that go on after the quote-unquote results. And then months later, then there is an official result that is stick somewhere in the paper that nobody even see, understand why it ended up that way.
Oh
You know,
boy.
we have to stop that.
I,
Those they're final.
I think one of the things you have to find a way to manage in all of this is how do you um, how do you safeguard the percentage of material to be used? How do you qualify that before a result is released? Because if you go back to the same judges, they're going to bring you back the same results with not matching the 60% or whatever percentage of crepe paper and pasting is done. Somewhere in there, you got to be able to determine, well, this is what we got. You got to examine those judges' decisions to make sure that it qualifies.
Exactly.
Somehow you got to put that safeguard in there. Otherwise, the judges can bring you whatever they bring you, and you're going to accept it, and it ain't got no better. So you got to put a safeguard in there to ensure that the rules are carried out in each instance.
Owen says maybe we need to elect a revolving subcommittee of qualified Junkanooers that have excelled at the various disciplines of Junkanoo to manage and uphold regulations to preserve the integrity and authenticity of Junkanoo. They should have the power to override flawed decisions that are deemed detrimental to the preservation of the art form. Just an idea.
That's interesting. I like that.
How long have you heard me and Arlene talk about a committee? What we would call it is a committee with their mandate is to protect, preserve, nurture, and to teach. That's the mandate of that committee. Meaning that when you have a rule, you're not just supposed to have a rule for having a rule's sake. A rule is supposed to do something. It's supposed to either protect a technique or preserve a technique or stop another technique from trying to come in. What is the purpose? And that body is supposed to be that body that overrides and sees these things and says, you know what? I see the suggestion. However, if we do this, here's what we're doing on the back end in terms of some of these unique features. It's a good point, and it's something that needs to be researched out and given some more thought. Very good comments that are coming from Facebook. And these are things that we have to look at, folks. Closing remarks, Patrick. I just hope that you can return back to the JCMP after the show. Ronald ain't gonna be in the room with you.
I can hold my own. I can hold my own, and so I'm resolute in my beliefs. Because Junkanoo has done well for me, and for all of us who have come out of the inner city, we wouldn't be where we are today if it wasn't for this thing called Junkanoo. Junkanoo has given us any number of life skills, and where I am in business, it's through all of the toils and the tribulations I've been through in Junkanoo. And so the essence that Junkanoo gives us, Darren, is immeasurable. And so I think we should fight for this product with all our might. And I think that the tools that it provides will be essential for the development of our children in the next generation. And so, I wouldn't give up. I wouldn't give up. And like some people would say, Darren, I don't think that we're hopeless. I think once we have the determination, we have the will, I believe that we can turn this around and we can put this on a course that we can be proud of when it's time for us to be called home. I think we still have time to do that.
Thank you for joining us. Patrick, I'm sure this won't be the last time we'll be discussing this point and even more points. We deem the right to call you back if we need you to further this discussion. Ronald, Who's up on the Friday night?
Oh, it's the last day of Junkanoo Summer Festival 2022, the final day. And they got, it's an exciting day. Junkanoo wives, they got two big boys battling it out at 9 o'clock in that A category. They got Roots followed by the biggest name in Junkanoo, the biggest name who everybody was wondering what they doing. Oh, they gonna break up on this. Well, they break up there right back here in your face. So they got Roots in the Valley rushing at 9 o'clock tonight. But from an entertainment perspective on stage, you have Bloody, Fanchon, the Soulful Groovers, Shine, the Caribbean Express. Of course, you have the Junkanoo demonstration, how the music of Junkanoo comes together with Barabbas and his group of band. And we have both the Royal Bahamas Police Force and the Royal Bahamas Defense Force marching bands this evening. Early in the day, the Urban Renewal marching band. So from noon to midnight, a lot of fun, a lot of action, a lot of entertainment, a lot of food, a lot of drink. Arawaki is the place to be.
Folks, this is Junkanoo 242. It's all about us and all about you in the 242. And let everything we do show that we are proud to be Bahamian. We'll see you next week.